Well, another time, another place, another day. Well, that's a lie, it's the same place, frankly, but tell you what, it is another Banggood kit. And this one, I believe, is going to be a radio. Now, again, as with all these kits, it was dirt cheap. Just search for the title that I put in the video, and you'll find it there. Let's have a quick look at the instructions. And we have let's have a look. We have let's see if we've got, well, it's all in Chinese, but then again, fair enough, I guess. There we have the circuit diagrams, it were. We have the track layout of the PCB, and we have probably the most important piece is the component layout. And so that should be hopefully reasonably straightforward. Let's have a look at the rest of the kit. What do we get? We get a black plastic box, and we can see that black plastic, I'll tell you what, before we do that, there's this bag of tricks here. We've got some resistors, we've got a coil in there to act as a choke, I should imagine. Ceramic cap, we have a little PCB. That looks like it needs populating as well, with all sorts of clever bits and pieces. We have a riser pins. I would imagine that this plugs into the main board somewhere, so that's cool. We have, as you can see there, rolling about as it may be, an LCD. I don't know, I contain the excitement, frankly, but here we go. So let's take that off and open this up. He says, I don't know what T2 means, but Terminator 2? Is this going to suddenly turn into a killing machine of some sort? I doubt it. It looks like we have an indent here, which I would assume is for an antenna, a folding antenna. I think this is an FM radio. Yeah, we've got FM band 74 to 108 megahertz, so that's quite a wide spectrum, wider than the UK FM spectrum. Of course, in the UK, we are moving over quite significantly to digital audio broadcast, or DAB. Television in the UK no longer uses the UHF or the VHF frequencies. It's all digital now. There is no analog TV in the UK, and they were going to do similar with the radio, but they didn't. So there's still plenty of FM stations to listen to. Not that I really bother. I just like making these kits. So there's the battery door, and there is a great big lump of metal. Exciting. Heatsink, possibly. A little radio like this need a heatsink like that. We have a thing which, looking at it, might go with that in some way, shape or form, perhaps. It kind of looks like it might do. Like that, I don't know. Okay, so what else have we got? Oh, and here she goes. So let's have a look at the business end of the PCB. There's an odd translucent feel to it, or look to it. You can see, I don't know, is that a multi-layer? Can't imagine it is. It's just through hole, isn't it? Single layer board it must be. It's just very, very see-through. But there you go. So there's all the component layout. That's good. We have lots of these. I have no idea what these are for. Certainly not at this moment in time. I don't know what they are. They look like they might be stickers of some sort, but no idea. Absolutely no idea at all. Right, put those to one side. I'm sure they're going to be useful. We have another reasonably large bag of all sorts of components. Loads of them. Looks Looks like we even got a little board in there of some sort. Oh, no, okay, we've got a chip that is housed in, I don't know what the material they call that, but there's a chip inside there. So that needs to be connected. Got a whole stack of ceramic caps. Don't know what that little is. That looks like a battery holder, probably. Oh yeah, right, yeah, it's got a spring on the other side. It's the that'll be for the battery. I don't know. I think probably AA cells or something like that. We have the tuner. This bag's going to burst open in a minute. That's the tuner. Okay, we've got another choke there by the looks of things. An IC of some sort. A bunch of wires, so we've got some wiring to do as well. We have what I assume will be the headphone jack, and a bunch of resistors and more wire and all sorts of clever stuff. And we have a power switch, I guess. What else do we have? We have, oh yes, we have an antenna, and I'm guessing that it will, I was thinking it might connect to this brass looking rod, but I don't know. We shall have a look. We have a PCB, another PCB, which, right, well that's interesting. That looks like the LCD display board. We've got some pads there for buttons to make contact with, and there's the buttons there in that matrix there. So it's actually one single set of buttons all held together, so they'll individually move, but I can't see that those plastic backs on those buttons are going to do any good whatsoever against those connectors, so that might be what those stickers were for. I don't know. Haven't got there that far yet. We have a tuning wheel, so I'm guessing we will also have some string or something to oh no, we probably won't. No, we won't have any string. I'm thinking you need the string for the dial, but of course it's LCD. Stupid boy. So okay, so that's going to go on top of the tuner at some location, and then carefully I'll lift this back out. We have got the LCD display, which is just sort of floating about freely on its own, which I'm guessing will sit on there like that. I don't know. I don't really know how it works, to be brutally honest. This is news to me. No surprise there. That may be where that chip goes. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now. So what you can see is it's got a fair bit to it. It's actually quite a complicated little kit. So got minute set, HE set, don't know, time set, alarm, display, alarm on off. So yeah, it's got some functions on there. It's not completely rubbish. Let's have a look at the back of this. 32.768 kilohertz crystal. IC, some capacitors going there, all sorts of clever stuff. So yeah, we've got some figuring out to do here. There will be some instructions, I'm sure, on online, which I'm going to have to find. One of the things I do notice actually is that there is no protective. Oh, the speaker fell out and the switches fell out. It's all going horribly wrong, but never mind. Yeah, but there's no plastic covering for the LCDs. That means that the LCD glass is going to be exposed when it's fitted in there. But never mind. Be rather nice if it was backlit, but I'm sure it isn't. In fact, there is no switched mark light or anything like that, so that'll probably be a little bit too much to ask for, to be brutally honest. But so far so good. Like I say, there's quite a bit to this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find the instructions off of Amazon or wherever, and then we can start putting this beastie together in the manner in which they tell us to. What on earth is that for? We will find out in the fullness of time. We'll be back soon. Right, well, it's the next day. I had to stop mucking about with it yesterday, but let's pick it up again, see where we are. And I have actually done a little bit of research because I was thinking, well, there's quite a lot to this kit, so perhaps there's some instructions. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. No instructions of any value whatsoever. So just work it out as we go along. The one thing I didn't understand was this, the LCD, and I have since discovered what it's all about. So you might be able to see there, as well, you may not be able to see. I don't know if I can. If you just look at the edge of that LCD, you might see that there are stripes appearing where the lamp is shining on it. Well, those stripes are actually contacts, and the idea is that these are sticky pads. You stick the LCD to the sticky pads and you line up the glass with that white line there. This is focused. Focus, damn you. With that white line there, and then you use one of these, and only one, despite the fact they provide you with loads. And the reason they probably provide you with loads is that you're probably going to cock this up. But basically, these are contacts, and you basically stick the contacts. It's got a sticky back on it, and you basically stick it on there to on that piece of glass that's sticking out there, and then you mould it down to stick on the contacts on the PCB, which explains this, and wherever it is, oh, there it is, this and this, because this apparently is a tool, and you screw that together like that. You shove this bit of rubber or whatever it is in the conveniently cut groove in the piece of metal, which I am now doing, and I haven't made a very good job of that. Get in there, you swine. Well, it doesn't want to get in there, but anyway, the idea is that that would then be used to press down on the sticky pad to make good contact. That's the idea, anyway. So we are a way off of that, but at least I discovered what that is for. So yeah, very odd. Now, the other thing I discovered is that there are certainly at least two versions of this kit. One version has the LCD already connected and wired up, as is the what I would imagine is the LCD driver, which I appear to have lost. Where is that? Where's the LCD driver? Is it in that packet? Gordon Bennett, I've lost a bit already, and we haven't even started making the damn thing. Anyway, there's a. It's the one with the piece of the blob, the chip blob, as it were, and that basically goes in there, and that too is going to be a pain in the bum to fit. If I ever find it, if I don't find it, then this video is going absolutely nowhere. So that's what it's all about. So what I'm going to do is I need to sort out all these components, get them all into one, or try to organise them and not lose them, which I'm already doing, as you can already tell. And there it is. It's in the bag. That's why I couldn't find it. Yeah, that one there. This guy. Yeah, so that one will end up on there like that. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So let me organise the components, and we can start soldering, or welding, as the Chinese like to call it in translation. So yeah, let's get all these bits and pieces together, and a little bit of organisation. The other thing is that I did notice is a couple of other people who reviewed this kit and done a video on it seem to end up with loads of components left over. So whether that's just multiple versions of the same thing, which they tend to do in these kits, is to give you more components than you actually need, particularly if you've got tiny LEDs or something like that, which obviously we haven't got in this kit, which is always a good thing because you're going to bound to lose them. So anyway, I'm rambling now, so I'm going to adjust the camera a bit as well, I think, because it's annoying me. So once I've got the setup complete, I'll come back to you. Right, now I've sorted out all the components into some semblance of order, as you can see there, and I'm going to start with the resistors, as I always do. So let me get the camera sorted, and yeah, away we go. So we have got a whole bunch of resistors here. I cannot read resistor colours. I just do not know what they are off the top of my head, and I don't think these are all the same value, because that would be far too easy, and therefore I'm going to need to get my my resistor tester, which we built in a previous video. Which I don't have a battery for. Well, there's a battery for that. I think I might have used it for something else, so I need to get a battery for it. Right, okay, got my battery tester. This is again another kit that from Banggood, and I've done a video on this one, so check that one out somewhere in my list of vids. Let's try and clean the screen on this a bit. You can see what we're looking at. Right, so yeah, let's just test a few of these to see what values they are. So that's 150k by the looks of things. So what I'm going to do, and this will bore you to tears if I spend hours doing this, but I'm going to try and find all the appropriate locations for each of the resistors to go on this board, and install them accordingly. And when I've done that, we will continue. Right, we've got a bunch of resistors in, as you can see there, and so that's fine. I think the next thing to do is capacitors, of which we have many. Now, to be honest with you, I'm doing this quite straightforward in terms of the PCB layout diagram, and quite simply, it's just a case of matching up the value with the location of the component. So, for example, C630, that's going to be a 30 picofarad ceramic cap. See if I can find one amongst this little what's that one? Yeah, so we got a 30 picofarad cap there, if I can focus on that. It's got the number 30 on it, so that's all very straightforward. I just need to go through the board and match up the capacitors with their relevant locations and get them installed. Right, well, things are coming together very slowly, but they nevertheless are coming together. So we've got resistors on. I did actually miss a couple of resistors, which I found as I was looking at the capacitors, and I probably missed a couple of capacitors. And I can see one there that I've missed. So we'll do that while we're going along. The one I've missed is this guy here. I'm sure we'll see others in a minute. You need to shout out and let me know. I can't hear you. Any rate, yeah, so that's a 470 microfarad electrolytic capacitor, which is one of these guys. And if you're not familiar with these types of components, you're a complete novice like myself, then the important thing to note with these is that they are polarity crucial or sensitive. And what I mean by that is they've got a positive and a negative. These little ceramic caps and all the resistors, forget the electrolytics, talk about that in a second, but none of those are polarity sensitive. It doesn't matter which way round they go, as long as one leg goes in one hole and the other leg goes in the other hole, then you're fine. But not with these electrolytics. They have a plus and a minus, and you can see that fairly clearly there on this one. You've got the plus symbol there and you've got the minus symbol there, and the way that you tell is that on one side of the capacitor you'll see a minus sign. You can see that minus sign there, and on the other side it doesn't have anything at all. But when you first get it like this, you can see there's the focus, you sway, and there you go, there's the minus sign. On the other side, nothing, but you'll see that this leg is longer than the other one, and this one is the positive, as you can see there. So there's several ways of telling which way around they go, but the PCB is nicely marked, showing plus and minus. I've got to admit my soldering has been very, very lazy on this. Normally I try and get the components nice and close to the board, but yeah, I've been a bit sloppy, and I'm just sort of like forcing them down like that and then splaying the legs out and giving it a bit of a solder and moving on. So yeah, let's focus this thing so you can see what I'm doing. So just a little bit of soldering. Again, I always have this problem with the soldering iron that I use, because it's got such a fine tip, it doesn't spread the heat as well, and when you've got large pads like you have on this PCB, it gets a little bit trickier for the solder to get, and the surrounding area to get warmed up and or heated up, and for the solder to subsequently flow. But anyway, I've been getting away with it. It's okay, it's not too bad. So yeah, there we go. So we're getting capacitors and resistors are done, he says, until we decide that we missed one. Take a little closer look at the board. Stop that waggling around, just put my magnifying glass on it, and there she is again. It's quite a nicely printed board, you know, the screen printing's nice and clear. I'm looking around for things that I've missed. You can see that, you know, SP1, SP2, that'll be for the speaker wires. RVM50K, I haven't quite worked out what that is yet. I'm sure it will be blindingly obvious when I get to the components. There's a transistor there to go in, ICs with a notch to show the orientation of the IC. You know, it's all very, very straightforward in many respects. These are things that I haven't installed before, which are going to be fairly straightforward. They're actually inductors, or what I've been calling chokes, but that's probably the wrong description. But they're inductors, so they're basically windings, coils, let's see if I can find them. there they are. And I can zoom in a bit for you on this. There we go. And do a bit of a focus. So yeah, there you go. There's the windings, and you'll see the markings on the PCB. It says 5.5T, 6.5T, and 6.5T, and I'm guessing that means 6.5 turns and 5.5 turns, which would make sense because if you look at these inductors, if I can get them on their side, of course that'll be far too easy, thank you very much. And this one, when I move it, it will knock the others. You can see this one is thinner. There's not as many turns on that one as there are on these two. So these two will be the 6.5 turns, and that will be the 5.5 turns, and they'll go in those respective slots. So that's probably the next little job I'll do. And it's just soldering like any other component. You can see the legs will be diagonal to the windings, because of the way the windings finish up, as you can see there, diagonal to each other, and so are the holes that they're supposed to go into. So that's all very straightforward. So I shall pop those in and we will move on. Right, well, we've got the inductors installed. That was good. A bit more light on the subject. And so that's 1, 2, 3 inductors. I've also installed the 2 transistors, and you can get the orientation of those is important as well. And they've got a base collector and emitter of the 3 pins. No, I don't know what they mean either, but that doesn't matter. You can see on the silk screening that there is a flat edge printed and a circular back, which is the same as the component. So you can see the flat edge of the transistor goes to the flat edge on the PCB silkscreen, and of course the same on that one there. Not quite straight, but it doesn't matter. I've also soldered in the 2 chips, and you can see that the orientation of that chip is basically match the notch on the chip to the notch on the silkscreen of the PCB, and the same is true down here as well. So that's easily enough, that's straightforward enough, and I think we're getting there with most of the major components on the main board, except we need to put in the tuner, and this is the tuner here, and you'll notice underneath that it's got 3 trimming, I don't know if they're pots, I think they probably sort of adjusting see inside there. I don't know if I'm getting better focus on it, but you can see inside there there's lots of little plates, and those move up and down against each other, which I guess creates capacitance, and that changes the frequency or something like that. I don't know. Probably against the reference crystal, I have no idea. But I just noticed actually the actual pins on this device look a bit rusty. Might have to give those a clean, or I might just not bothered. Anyway, one of the important things to note is that you've got two metal tabs, 1 metal tab, 2 metal tabs. But the critical thing is that you'll see that that tab is wider than that tab, and you need to correspond to the wide and not so wide openings on the PCB. So when you put it in, it is going to go that way around, like that. So, there we go. It's going to be like that. I need to bend the pins a bit, I think. Oh, there we go. And she connects in there, and I just need to solder up the pins at the rear, and we're good to go. So what else we've got to do on this board? We've got some connecting wires to put on. Where's that? I've got this thing zoomed in. I can't quite easily see, but yeah. So we have a ribbon cable for that somewhere. Seem to have lost that already, but there is a ribbon cable for it, and I think that probably goes across to the LCD board, possibly. We've also got this board to make up as well. So I've got a diode in there, and other bits and pieces, another inductor as well, the ceramic cap. So we shall move on to those next time. In the meantime, I'm going to solder this up, and we'll take it from there. Right, okay, so there's the build as far as it goes at the moment. I've been doing this over a few days actually, which you might have already noticed, because it's a case of time at the end of the day, so we'll grab a bit of time here and a bit of time there to try and be able to squeeze in a bit more of this build. Anyway, let's press on. We've got some other components to try and work out what to do with, but let's try a few of the easy ones. We've got a switch here. This is going to be, I think this is the power switch, on off. It comes with a plastic black button. You just pop that on the switch, and it's just a on-off power switch, and that will go in there. What else have we got? We have got pretty much most of the we got these guys. Now I can't remember what these are, but let's see if I can. Let's go down a bit. I'm just trying to. Let's try put it in the palm of my hand, focusing on it that way. There we go. And I've actually got a couple of these, and one of them has actually got 3 pins, and I don't know what they are. And I can't find the other one. Where's it gone? There it is. They're not components I've dealt with before, but I believe that they are polarity critical. You see they've got a red dot on the left hand side or left hand top corner there, and they go on the board in that location there and that location there. So there's 2 pins, 3, and you'll see that one of the pins is boxed off, and I suspect that's where the red dot goes. But I just need to check exactly what these components are. So let's have a look. They are, so it's CF. I should know what CF stands for, but I don't. I really don't know what it stands for. And it's doing my head in. Let's see if I can find. I'm just looking on the the parts list, but I'm guessing it's going to. It's just going to say CF on here as well. CF1, CF2, down there. Let's try and focus this up a bit. CF1, CF2. I don't know what they are, but there we go. I'm going to take the risk, and I am going to install them. The logic tells me that they should be installed with the red dot in the box like that. That'll be my guess. So that's what I'm going to do. And I might regret it. The whole thing might just explode with a massive explosion and take the roof off my house. Yeah, I know that's unlikely, but at any rate, it sort of amused me for a minute. Right, so I'm just going to hopefully with the soldering iron is now up to its relevant heat. So let's just solder that pin there, and then solder it up again and push the component through so it's nice and it's moving about. Now why is that? That's a bit odd. It looks like the solder didn't take at all. How strange. So I know I'm off camera here. My brain isn't functioning well. Right, well that's kind of fitted that side in. Let's just solder this side sensibly. Yeah. I don't know, this board doesn't solder well with the tip I've got on this iron, which I think I've already mentioned. There we go, so that's that one. Prop the pins in a minute, and we'll do this one, and again I'm going to put the red dot where the box is. So you see the CF1 there, and the boxed off pin is where I'm going to put the red dot. I do hope that's right, and I just do not know what this component is. Hopefully, before I finish this this build, I've worked it out. Let's see if I can just hold that in. Ugh. Whilst I solder one of the pins. Yeah, interesting. I do not know what it is. Right, I'm just checking that that's not moved. Probably ought to zoom in a little bit for you here, but at the end of the day I'm only doing a bit of soldering, nothing too exciting. I haven't shown you much soldering up till now, so I thought I would do. And the bit I've chosen to show you may be the bit where I'm soldering a component completely incorrectly the wrong way around. Well, won't be the first time I've done that, on camera or off camera. Alright, so let's crop these leads down. See, another thing, I have got to get myself a decent pair of snips. These are, I've got loads of pairs of snips, but I think the trouble is they're all cheap rubbish, and they can't snip to save their lives. Certainly to save mine. Does my bloody head in. Right, okay. I probably ought to prop down those pins on the IC as well, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know how well it'll fit in the case. Can't imagine there'll be too much of a problem there. Okay, I want to solder this switch in. Something's telling me not to at the moment, because there may be other components that I should be considering first. We've got the I would imagine that's the volume pot, and that chap will live in there like that. So yeah, let me again just get one pin soldered and get it flat on the there we go. As long as I've got one of them sticking through, that'll be enough just to trap it and get the others soldered in. I am actually quite surprised about the amount of stuff is in this kit, because at the end of the day it's only an FM radio. It's not the most sophisticated piece of electronics that you can get these days, and yet there's loads of capacitors, resistors, but I think it's fairly old school in terms of its design, despite the fact it's got an LCD readout. I actually don't think that amounts to a hill of beans, to be brutally honest, the fact it's got an LCD readout. But yeah, it just seems an awful lot of components just for what it is. I was actually reading on one of the forums that were, I think it was on the Banggood forums, and somebody was saying that the chip, or one of the chips that they use in this board, is also capable of resolving AM amplitude modulation. Oh, that's hot. It might be something to do with the fact I just had a really great soldering iron shoved on it for the last 5 minutes. Yeah, it can handle AM radio stations as well as FM. Now, this is just configured to do FM, but it might be possible to mod it to do other stations as well. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea, but that was an interesting thought. Okay, so we have got, so let's have a look at some of the other components we've got lying about. We have the, what I'm guessing will be the headphone jack, and that chap lives in there like that. And that goes in. Oh, it's quite tight, so it'll hold itself in there relatively neatly while I solder up one of the pins. I'm far too far away from the I'm just going to zoom in a bit, and I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't do, which is to try and do some soldering through the camera, which, let's be brutally honest, isn't going to work, but it's worth a try. You can see what I mean about it not taking the solder all the way around, and that's a good example there, both of those connections. And I think it's because the tip of my soldering iron is just a little bit too thin. Let's see if I can spread that solder around a bit more. I'm probably not giving enough heat, and there you go. That's what you want. It's like a peak. Comes up as a peak, which is what I try to get in terms of a good solder joint. Again, I'll try to do this through the camera. Will that work? There we go, like that. Let's try this one. Yeah. So it's only sort of just resolve parts of it. Yep. And this solder I'm using is pretty thin as well, and you're right. I need a new piece of solder because the next time I try and use that bit, I'm going to burn my fingers. I ain't doing that. Oop. I'm knocking everything about here. Sorry about that. I'm going to make you feel seasick then. And we just want to do that one there. Try and keep the soldering iron away from the plastic of the jack so I don't melt it. There you go, that's a bit better. Nice, what I call a mound or a peak. That's the way I like the solder joints to turn out. Don't always happen that way, unfortunately. So there we go. We're starting to get a fairly well populated board now, aren't we? So that's all good. Pretty much done this one. Now that is going to be for a ribbon of wires, and I can't find it. Do you know, it's funny, I couldn't find it last night, then I found it and I've lost it again. Anyway, I will find that, and we'll pop that on in a minute. So yeah, I think what we're going to be doing is looking at some of the other board, namely this one, and getting this open and start fixing that one up. Right, well, I thought the next thing I would do is look at the LCD board. The reason for that is I want to sort this guy out. Now this is I'm guessing it is the driver chip for the LCD, and you can see that it's basically, well, the chip is actually housed in that blob of potting compound and is on a PCB of its own, and basically that has got to go on there like that, which is fine, but I'm not entirely sure how to solder it, to be brutally honest. I would imagine that quite simply the solder will flow over the edge of the board quite happily, which is basically what I'm relying on. I think it will be. I think it'll be fine. It's going to be a bit difficult, but the first thing I need to do is to, because it's flat and very slippy or slippery, I'm going to have to actually tie the component down. I think I'm just going to use a small piece of electrical tape, just basically line it up like that. Oops. And try and get it straight, and then put the tape on it just to hold it in position while I solder one of the joints. So what I'm going to do, because I really could use, I think I'll zoom out a little bit here. I'm using my magnifying glass just to try and make it a little bit easier for me to see as well as you, and see how we get on. I think what I might have to do is I might have to change my glasses. I don't know if that's lined up all that well. Well, I think it's okay. Let's see if I can actually do this on camera. Oh, I see it's moving already. Perhaps I ought to put a bit of tape on the other side as well. So once I've got a couple of the pins soldered up, I don't need to worry about the tape. But this is not the easiest thing in the world to do. Right. I'm really going to struggle to see this and make sure the camera, I think I'm afraid what I'm going to have to do, because I'd like you guys to see what's going on, I'm going to have to try and relocate the camera and a little bit like this. So you can see what's going on as well. That's an awful lot of effort just to see me screw up a bit of soldering, and that's not level either, is it? That is twisted. Let me try and line that up a bit better. What's that like? I think that's better. I'm sure you get the idea already, but let's change my glasses again. See if it's any better with this. I don't know if my big fat head is going to get in the way. I don't think it is, but Right. Okay. Let's take a look at that. That was a right pain in the bum. And a bit difficult to see what was going on there. So let's show you kind of how it's come about. So that's kind of what I'm trying to achieve. And you can see is a blob of solder trying to bridge across the step that is kind of created by the thickness of the board that I'm trying to solder it to. I probably need to press down on that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this off camera because I just can't get close enough to it with the camera in the way as well, and you wouldn't see anything. So let me do that and I'll get back to you. Well, that was a nightmare, but I have managed to solder it onto the board. See if we can get a little bit closer in here for you. Now it looks pretty scrappy on this side, and I did have some problems here. It just didn't want to know, but I've managed to, I'm pretty sure, get them all connected up without bridges. I was getting awful problems with bridges forming on these particular pins, but these are okay. But what I should have done, which is what I did on this side, which you'll see is a much cleaner and much neater, is put some flux on it. And of course, if you put flux on it, then it flows so much better. And what I use for that is just one of these Flux Pens. You can get these on Amazon or eBay or anywhere. And these are worth their weight in gold. So I suggest you invest in one of these if you've never used one before. But the trick is to remember to use it. On this side I did. So I think this side is nice and smooth, and because the flux allowed it to flow neatly. I think, hand on my heart, that's kind of done it. So I think we will move on to bigger and better things. You can see there's some capacitors there, a couple of capacitors there, a couple of 20s, there's a crystal to go in, another capacitor there, so I need to get all those sorted out. And the other thing to bear in mind with this is if you have a look at the numbering on the board itself for the chip, it starts off with, I've got it upside down, there's pin 1, there's pin 18, and it needs to correspond with the same pins on the main board that you're soldering to. 36 1 to 1, 18 to 18, and 19 to 19. So make sure you get that orientation right before you start soldering, otherwise you're going to have a very bad day. Right, onwards. Right, have you ever had one of those situations where you've started something that you just never seem to get the time to finish it? Well, this radio build is that issue for me at the moment. So this is turning out to be a very protracted video over several days, or quite a few days actually, probably even a couple of weeks now, I can't even remember. But yes, trying to find the time to finish it off. But let's move on while I'm here. I've got the soldering iron warming up. I'm going to start completing the build on the LCD board. This guy here, we got the chip, the main driver chip for the LCD, soldered in. Bit of a mess on this side, put a nice lot of flux on this side, and it worked really nicely. Wish I'd done it on that side, but I didn't. That was silly, but never mind. The other thing I noticed, I should have laid the electrolytic capacitors flat. You can see on the board, it gets something to point with if I can find anything. There we go. You can see these markings here. That really should have indicated to me to lay the electrolytic capacitors flat on the board. I probably still could. I think I might have enough of the legs showing, but I'm going to leave it like that in the hope that they don't stand up too proud and stop the case going together. I think I'm going to be okay, but time will tell on that front. Okay, so I think what we're going to do, the next thing to do is I'm going to fit this switch, which goes in there like that, and then I'm going to start populating this board. Now, what I'm not sure, on the back you've got the components will go through on this side and soldered this side. I think what I need to actually do is to install the LCD, do that first, then do the components, because I'm going to want the LCD while I'm working on it to be flat on the board, so I will do that next. So we'll have a go at that, but I'm just going to solder this switch back in. Now the LCD is going to be certainly an interesting job, not one I've ever done before, because it's connected to the board using these stickers, which are basically conductive and will connect the LCD to the actual board. And yeah, it should be interesting to see how they go. On the LCD itself, and be honest, LCD technology is, well, most electronic technology in any detail is not something I know a great deal about. But the actual connections on the LCD itself are very, very faint. You can hardly see them. I don't know, I think I tried to get it on camera before for you, but yeah, not so easy to actually see them. So that's obviously why they've got this this tape as a way for the average domestic person to be able to connect them. Well, perhaps that's a way they are connected normally at any rate. I don't know. But yeah, that you can actually get this kit with the that chip and the LCD pre-installed. I think it probably makes the kit more satisfying if we can do the whole lot ourselves, but of course if it proves an impossible task, then the whole kit's ruined. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do this. Anyway, let's just finish soldering in the main power switch. Incidentally, interestingly enough, the power switch, and I'll show you in a minute, let's just get this soldered on. I really am struggling with the solder on this board. It's not good at all. I don't know why. I don't think it's the solder, I don't think it's the iron, I think it's something to do with the board. I think probably, now have I gone and bridged those connections? Yeah, damn it, I have. Not paying attention is what I was doing there, or not doing. Now I need, now what have I done with that? I had it here a minute ago. I'm looking for some of this stuff, which is desoldering wick, which will hopefully soak up some of that solder and remove the bridge. Right, sorry about that, I got interrupted again, but it was a good interruption this time. Mrs. Addyfred bought me in a cup of tea, so I'm going to go and consume that in a minute. So there we go. Yeah, now, what I was going to say about the button is that the main switch button comes with this little cap, which is great, and that will stand proud of the front case of the radio to make it easily to switch on and off. But the thing that you will need to do is to, I think it's probably that one there, that one will be cut off because it's basically replaced by this. So I think the button array, I don't know, is I would imagine that it's going to go together something like that. Actually, it's the other way around, isn't it? But it will be like that. So you can see that this button needs to be cut off because it's replaced by this one. Okay, so that's that. What I need to do now is to start thinking about the installation of the LCD. So I'm going to go and have my cup of tea, and once we've done that, once I've had that, then we're going to have a crack at trying to install the LCD onto this board. Right, well, I think the first thing I'm going to do is actually take some pure alcohol, isopropanol alcohol. It's basically nail remover cleaner, and I'm going to clean up the contacts on the main board, on the basis that hopefully will remove any grease and rubbish that could prevent the stickers from adhering to it. And I'm going to do similar onto the LCD. I don't know if this is a good idea or not, I have no idea. I can't tell whether or not you can see. Yeah, if you just look at the light on the edge along here, you can see stripes. Now those stripes are the connections, and that's what we've got to marry up to the connections on the board using that sticker. So I think that one more white, like that. I think what we'll do now is remove the protective film on these two. Well, for some bizarre reason it stopped recording there, but basically what I've managed to do is stick the LCD onto the board and got the glass of the LCD, or that edge along there, it's not really focusing too long, is it? Give it another go. To that white line, that's that chip I was talking about, but I think it'll be okay. So now we need to try and apply the sticker, which I suspect is going to be easier said than done, but let's try. I'm just off camera at the moment, but what I'm trying to do is remove the backing on the sticker. The thing I'm going to do is, I think what I need to do is line it up firstly on the LCD itself. I think I'm going to have to do this off camera. I'll have to get my nose quite close to it. So bear with me while I do that. It's not the easiest job in the world, it has to be said. I might need the tweezers for this. Right, bear with me. Right, well that was a nightmare. I went through 2 of these stickers, I've still got a bunch left. And I mean, there's no, if there is a trick to it, I don't know what it is, but you can see that it's been attached, and it's quite a Z shape that you need to get in there. I don't know if you can see that. Let's have a look. There you go, you can see how I've installed it there. It's not dead straight, but it is got the right connector on the right connector. The tape, it doesn't stick very well at all. it's not good quality. I don't think it's not the best idea, and I'm suspecting I'm going to get problems with this LCD as a result of that. But oh well, we'll have to wait and see. It might be okay, but I'm not holding my breath. Right, so what we need to do now is install all the other components, and we have a crystal, we have a couple of ceramic capacitors, another one there, we have a diode there, and these are the placement for the little metal clicker buttons, which I'm not sure how we're going to fix those in there, because I think they're probably going to need a bit of glue or something in there just to hold them in place, certainly during installation. So we'll have to have a look at that. So I'm going to get those components in and I'll be back to you. Right, okay, I've just been completing the LCD board. The sticker is remaining in place at the moment. It's dripping over the edge a bit there, which means that it could get pulled off, so I'm going to keep a close eye on that. That's one of my clocks going off. It's going to talk. Talking in Chinese. I don't even know if you heard that. Okay, the next problem I've got is these guys. These are the little metal clicks, which will be for the buttons to press down on. But they're floating about all over the place. I don't know if it's possible to solder these or not. They have got, on each one there are 2 holes on the board, and this is where you can locate the 2 pins. Actually, I think they might be, yeah, no, there's 2 pins on the click itself, so that locates it in the right position on the main board. I can get it to go down there, so I think it will go round something like that. Oops, almost something like that, in that position there. It's stuck to my screwdriver. But as soon as I turn the board upside down to install it in the case, they're going to fall off, which they are doing now. So I'm not entirely sure what the best way is to fix them in whilst I'm installing the LCD board. I think it's got to be a little bit of glue. I'm not sure if I've got any that would be suitable for that job. So I need to go and hunt around for something that's going to do that. I could, of course, just hold it in there, perhaps with just a little bit of tape. That might be a solution. A little bit of electrical tape, that probably wouldn't harm it. Yeah, so that might be the way forward. So I'm going to have a think about that. And once I've worked it out, I will let you know what I concluded. Right, well, I've got those little metal buttons in, and as you can see, all I've done is I've taken strips of insulation tape just to hold them in place. And if you've got reasonable quality insulation tape, that should pretty much do it. I think it's a preferable solution to glue. I don't think solder will work. It might do, I don't know. But I just got the impression it probably wouldn't. And of course, these buttons are mechanical. They're concave, so they need to press flat when these buttons press on top of them. So you know they've got to be able to have movement, and I don't think glue or solder is going to assist in that at all. So that's my solution, at any rate, and we'll see how it works. You also see that I've installed the wires, which will connect this LCD board to the main board. The colours of the wires are completely irrelevant as long as the wire on pin 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 goes to its counterpart on the main board, which is here, so you can see 1, 2, 3. It was upside down actually, but there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As long as they match up with one another, then it doesn't matter what colour wire you use. So I've got brown going to 1, for example, 1 to 1, but it doesn't really matter. So well, it doesn't matter at all. So there we go. We're kind of heading down on this. A couple of bits of hardware to play with on the battery cover, for example. We have got where is it? Well, we've got one end here, which is I think that will be the positive terminal for the battery. That will slot in there, and there's the negative end, which will turn over, and that will slot in there. I'm not too sure which way up yet, because I'm not sure where to route the power supply lead, which will obviously have to connect to that, presumably on that solder tab there. But I'll work that out and I'll show you what I've done when we get to that. What else have we got? We've got the telescoping antenna, which will be screwed in. Wow, that's tight. It will be screwed in there like that. It will have probably a plate or something, I think. There, I see there's a tab, a little metal tab there, which will probably screw down with that, and we'll use that to solder a piece of wire which will go to the antenna connection on the main board, which is there. And I think, apart from the battery terminals, we are almost there. Obviously, we've got hardware to sort out, all these screws to sort all of those out, install the speaker, and yeah. So what I'm going to do, it's all fairly straightforward stuff from this point on. No great magic there, and I can see the tape on this lifting a little on the end there. I really think this LCD is going to be a problem. I've got, how many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4 of these stickers left. So I've got another 4 attempts to try and get it right. But I'm hoping that this second attempt that I did is going to crack it. We'll see. But anyway, I'm going to finish putting all the hardware bits and pieces together, and I'll show you exactly what I've done when I've done that. Just a quick additional, I thought that the strips of insulation tape might be a bit ineffective, so I've actually covered the whole thing in clear tape as well, so I'm pretty sure that those buttons, which are nice and clicky still, aren't going anywhere. So yeah, just a little bit of extra strength to keep those buttons in place. I think that'll do the job. Right, I've just installed the speaker, and the speaker just sort of plops into position. It's not clipped in, it's not held in well at all. It was actually fairly firm. It wasn't too bad, but I can see it falling out if you're not careful. So I've just put some tape around the edges there, that you can see, which is held it in there really firmly. So I'm hoping that will do the job. I see no reason why it shouldn't do. And I think the tape will last, but like I say, it's in there reasonably firm, but a sharp knock will make that fall out if the tape isn't there. So we've done that. Next thing to do, I think I'll take don't know which wires to use. We've got a blue and a white here, blue and a white wire, which I'm going to use just to connect the speaker up to the main board. I don't think it really matters what colour wires I use, but what I will do is just have a quick look at the positioning of the connectors on the main board, and what you've got here is the speakers are there, all the speaker connections are. Let's try putting it the right way around. Is this thing in focus? Let's bring it up a bit. So you can see SP2 and SP1, and that's where the speaker cables are going to go in, and the board is actually orientated that way. So these wires should be long enough to connect to that, so that should be okay. What I'm actually going to do, because I suppose ideally it would be better if I connect, if I wire up, now that wire may not be long enough actually, thinking about it. Well, that's not going to be long enough. So I really want something a bit longer that will connect the speaker wires so that I can solder the wires to the actual board, then solder it onto the speaker is what I want to do, but whether that's the right way about it, I don't know. The other wires you've got here, you've got a black and a red. Now logically black and red to me would mean power, so I'm going to save those for the battery terminals, and the battery is connected in two locations. They will be there, B minus, so that's battery minus, and there, B plus, which is battery positive. So that's where they'll go. So I need to route the wiring of all of this up. We then got another slightly longer wire here, which I'm going to use for the antenna. So that will connect the telescoping antenna to the main board. So that's that guy. So I'm going to get all that done, and I'll show you how it turns out. Yeah, yes, another interruption. Yeah. So remove the protective covers off the two sticky pads, and then line up the LCD appropriately. Now you'll see here. Yeah, I'll have to zoom in a bit for you. Yeah, so I'll try and keep it there. So you see here, there's a white line, and that is going to have to match up to the edge of the LCD. Right, well, we have success, but not without some pain. I haven't got the actual radio working at the moment. That wasn't my main concern. My main concern was getting this working. And I did have some problems with that sticker. I knew I would do. So this is actually the third sticker I've used, and I've still got 3 left. Is it the third? Well, no, it's just, no, Electrolytic is the second. The first one didn't really work all that well. The display was all to hell. And I also discovered that I had a few soldering joints along here weren't great, and the way I tested those was actually just to get something metallic like these tweezers and just run them along while you've got power connected and see if you get any improvement. And there were 1 or 2 spots, so I flowed it all again. I flowed the solder again, made sure that there was solder right up to the edge of the pins, even on the sub PCB itself, and that was great. Fixing these sticky connecting strips for the LCD, that's a real art form. The way I did it, and this tool, by the way, which is what you'll get in the kit, does actually work, and it works very well if you use it in a certain way. I don't know how to use it, but it's the way that I did it. And I first of all started off by obviously peeling off the strip and connecting it to this part of the, see if we can zoom in a bit, Yeah, so connecting it to this part of the glass along here, and then using this tool, pressing it firmly. Don't rub it about all like this or like that, up and down, sideways and all the rest of it. Press it down and firmly, not too hard, because bearing in mind that part is glass. Hold it there, you know, for a few seconds, lift it up, inspect it, make sure there's nothing lifting up, particularly at the edges, and then perhaps give it, you know, one or two more firm presses to make sure the glass is adhering to the adhesive on the sticker, and then that's fine. Now leave it for a second or two, let that glue sort of bed in a bit, and then with the rest of it you kind of try and brush what will then be the other half of the tape, which is loose and flapping around, ready to stick to the actual PCB pins, and kind of push it in until you get a Z shape or a Z shape if one of our American cousins, and then just bring it gently in towards the LCD and press firmly, making sure that you don't press down and trap too much of it and pull it off the edge of the LCD. That's how I did it. Don't, as I say, don't rub it backwards and forwards and up and down like that, because that won't work. Just keep it pressed down and put pressure on it to make the LCD, the adhesive, connect to the LCD or the PCB, depending on which bit you're doing at the time. So that works. Now we've connected up the zoom out a bit now. I think we can come back in again. So put the speaker in, held it in with some sticky tape just to secure it a little bit better, so that's okay. Soldered in the two wires, SP1, SP2. I put positive to SP2, I put negative to SP1. I don't know why I did. Whether it's right or not, I don't know. I haven't got the radio working yet, because I haven't wired up the antenna. The battery doors, the battery connectors are all wired up. Battery plus for the positive, and going on to battery minus for the negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw all of this together. I'm going to get the antenna wired up. I have actually installed the antenna. Just carefully show you here. The antenna's installed there. And what I need to do now is to solder this to that tab there for the antenna, and then the other end will be soldered underneath this board at the antenna connection, which is there. So I'm going to get on and do that. Right, so all's well with the display. Now I have been tuning up the FM radio, and what you need to do is, in order to get it to scan the range 108.6 MHz down to 72 MHz, you do two adjustments. The first one is to turn the variable capacitor to the highest frequency that it will show, and then adjust that screw in there, which will adjust the capacitor until it reads 108.6. Then turn this down to the lowest level and start adjusting this inductor until it shows 72 MHz. So basically this inductor you use to adjust the lowest setting, and you use capacitor or C1 to adjust the highest setting. Now, so for example, if you adjust the highest setting to 108.6, turn it all the way down, and let's say it says 68 MHz. Start adjusting this coil by splitting it in half. You can see there's a bit of a V shape in there. Start splitting it in half until it shows 72 MHz. Go back to this, turn it up again. That may show, say, 112 MHz. So adjust that until it says 108.6. Bring it down again and adjust that to 72. And you're doing this juggling act until eventually you'll end up with 108.6 megahertz at the high end and 72 megahertz at the low end. That's the idea. It's very fiddly, but doable. And as I say, it's just balance. It's just this very, very fine adjustment. Adjust the bottom end, then adjust the top end, the bottom end, the top end, and so on and so forth. You just keep going backwards and forwards, and eventually you'll get the range 108.6 to 72 megahertz. You can see at the moment I'm not quite there. At the low end I'm 71.7, and if I turn it all the way up, I'm going up to 108.9, so it's almost there. So I'm going to just tweak it a little bit more until I get it onto those two frequencies. Right, okay, and I've got it pretty much together. We've got the two boards in, and they're all screwed down. You have two screws for the LCD. Oh, can you see what I'm doing here? There's two screws in there for the LCD board. The bottom two screws you leave free because the rear case will capture those. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the main PCB. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to try and now put this thing carefully together in the hope that all will be well. And oof. Oh, the screw fell out there from somewhere. I don't think it might have been from one of my earlier efforts, and it clips together very neatly. Look at that. I think I've got it switched on at the moment. Switch it off, and you show when it's switched off, it shows you the time. When it's switched on, it goes to the radio. So what I'm going to do now is, I think there is a long screw, which is this one, which goes in there. I'll pop that in. And oh, wait a minute. Let's take the batteries out. Or at least those two batteries, and that one battery rather, because we have to screw a couple underneath the battery. That will also make sure that the LCD, or the bottom half of the LCD PCB is held in place. Let's try and get this one in. Have we got any others? Yes, we've got a couple of screws at the top. That one's in the wrong way round. And one. I'm sorry if this is off camera. I'm trying to watch what I'm doing and look at the camera screen as well. These are self-tapping screws, so they're actually quite tight when you put them in for the first time. And once they've tapped themselves and you take them out again, they're fine. And that's it. So let's put the battery back in. There is our... oh, that is our radio. So let's see if we can get it to tune into anything. Well, there you go. So let's power that off. It has, I'll leave it on for a minute. You've got an alarm setting, alarm on off, and that little display symbol comes on. Let's zoom in a little bit. So that's the alarm on off, and you can see, there you go, like that. So if you want to set the time, so you press that button. Now this is interesting. That button there isn't working. Yep, that one isn't working. So this one there, for some reason, is frozen. So I'm going to have to take it apart again and inspect that. But basically what you'll do is you'll press, what is it, time set. You'd hold that one down and then use the set button to change the time, and the same for the alarm time. You can switch the alarm on off there, and the alarm doesn't have a buzzer or anything. What it does is just switches the radio on, so you need to make sure you tune to a station that you want to wake up to. And do you know what? That's pretty much it. It could probably do with a bit more tuning, so if I go down to the bottom range, no, that's the top range, it should be 108.6, so I need to adjust that, and the bottom range is down to 71.8, which is almost about right, but at any rate I need to adjust the top range. But let's power that off. It's showing the incorrect time. I haven't adjusted the time yet, but basically that's it. I'll tell you what I will do very briefly. I'll grab a pair of headphones. Now, to be brutally honest, the audio quality from that speaker is bloody awful. It's not good at all, but let's see what it sounds like. Obviously, now the audio quality with headphones is actually quite nice. That is the volume, just adjust the volume there. So let's try and see if I can find a well, I'm just listening to a station that obviously you can't hear anything, but the actual audio quality on headphones was very nice. It was okay, not a problem at all. So that's nice to know. Other than that, you have a little clock radio with alarm function, which is, I think I'm just trying to check how much it cost. It's, you know, being Banggood, it's £7. It cost £7. It comes in a white version and obviously the black version. There are also two types, one with the LCD and the LCD driver chip already installed, and one without. I think probably the one that's installed may be just a little bit more expensive, but not a hell of a lot more. But I didn't kind of realise that at the time, and the one I got, the LCD, as you know, and the chip weren't installed, but never mind, it's success. So pretty happy with that. It's done the job. It also comes in white, if you prefer a white version, although I think that probably looks a little bit tacky. The antenna does click into place like that, and do you know what? I think that's a neat little radio. Not great quality. Well, I've left the battery door off. I've got battery door. There we go, and that completes the unit. It's a good kit to build. Lots to do, lots to learn. That the way that the LCD had to be installed, that was complete news to me. I've never come across anything like before. Yeah, I enjoyed making that one. So there you go. That's the FM radio from Banggood. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm afraid that this was a bit of a rambly long video, but there we go. Another success. I have got quite a few more kits to do, and so I shall show you all of those when I get round to doing them. which is not as often as I like at the moment, but we'll see what we can do. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for spending time with me. We'll catch you again soon. And if you can, subscribe and like, that would really be appreciated. I'm only a new channel, although I've been around for a lot of years. I haven't really done a great deal, and I'm, you know, trying to build it up a little bit, but why not? Other than that, all the best. Catch you again next time.